7 years ago, he vanished like desert smoke, leaving 2 Apache sisters with nothing but broken promises and a winter that nearly buried them alive. Now the train screams to a halt, and the man who shattered their world steps back onto sacred ground, carrying secrets heavy enough to crush mountains. Some wounds never heal, but some loves refuse to die. The desert knows how to keep secrets. It buries them beneath red sand and sage, holds them in the hollows of ancient rocks, whispers them only to those patient enough to listen. And on this particular afternoon, as the sun hung low and golden over the Arizona territory, the desert was about to give up one of its oldest secrets, the return of a man who should have stayed gone. My name is Aiyana, and my sister Chenoa and I had built our lives from the ashes of abandonment. We ran a small trading post at the edge of reservation land, where the railroad had carved its iron path through territory our grandmother once called sacred. We sold blankets woven with prayers, pottery shaped by careful hands, and the kind of silence that made travelers uncomfortable enough to pay their bills and move along. We had learned to trust no one, especially not blue-eyed ranchers who made promises sweeter than honey and vanished quicker than morning mist. The train whistle cut through the afternoon heat like a wounded animal crying out. I set down the clay bowl I was inspecting and walked to the window. The afternoon freighter never stopped here, not unless someone paid extra for the privilege or carried cargo too important for the scheduled run. Chenoa appeared beside me, her dark eyes narrowing as the locomotive began its reluctant descent into slower speeds. Steam hissed and metal screamed against metal. The beast was stopping. "Something is wrong," Chenoa said. Her voice carried that warning tone, the one she developed in the years after our mother passed, and she became both sister and guardian to me. "Something is always wrong," I replied. "That is the way of things." But even as I spoke those words, my heart began its betrayal. Something in the quality of the light, the angle of the shadows, the very temperature of the wind told me this particular wrongness would carry a familiar face. The train shuddered to its final stop. Dust rose and settled, and through that amber veil, a figure descended from the passenger car. He was older now. 7 years will do that to a man. Carve lines around his eyes and thread silver through hair that once gleamed like wheat at harvest. But Thomas Callahan still walked like he owned whatever ground received his boots. He still carried his shoulders like a man who had something to prove. And when he lifted his head and looked directly at our trading post, I knew he had come back for exactly what he left behind. Us. Chenoa's hand found mine. Her grip was fierce, protective, trembling with an anger she had nursed like a fire through long winter nights. "I will get the rifle," she said. "Wait." The word left me before I could stop it. She turned to me with disbelief carved across her beautiful face. "Wait, after what he did? After he left us with nothing but broken words in a winter that nearly killed us both? I need to know why." I squeezed her hand. 7 years, Chenoa. A man does not ride across 3 territories and pay to stop a train unless he carries something heavy enough to crush him. Thomas Callahan approached our door like a man walking toward his own execution. I watched him through the window, studied the way his hands flexed and released at his sides, noted the slight limp that had not existed before. The years had not been gentle with him. Good. But the years had not killed my feelings either. And that was the problem. The door opened. The bell we hung there, a small thing made of copper and dreams, chimed its greeting. And suddenly he was inside our space, our sanctuary, our carefully constructed world that had no room for the ghost of him. Aiyana. He spoke my name like it was water, and he was dying of thirst. Chenoa. My sister moved to stand slightly in front of me. Even after all this time, she positioned herself as shield. "You have no right to speak our names, Thomas Callahan. You have no right to stand on ground we have claimed. Leave before I remember where I stored my father's bow." Thomas did not move. He stood there with his hat in his hands, turning it slowly, a gesture so achingly familiar that my chest constricted. "I know I have no rights here," he said. "I know what I did. I know what I destroyed, but I am not leaving. Not until you both hear what I came to say." "Then say it quickly," I heard myself respond. "Words are cheap. You taught us that." Pain flickered across his features. Real pain, the kind that cannot be manufactured for sympathy. "Everything I told you 7 years ago was truth, Aiyana. I loved you. I loved you both. You as my heart's keeper, Chenoa as the sister I never had. I meant every promise. Promises that melted like spring snow." Chenoa spat. "Promises my father murdered before I could fulfill them." Thomas took a step forward, and both of us tensed. He stopped, respecting the boundary we had drawn without words. I did not choose to leave. I was dragged from this territory in chains of obligation and threat. My father discovered my intentions to marry you, Aiyana, to bring you both onto Callahan land as family. He threatened to destroy the trading post, burn it to ash. He threatened to use his influence with the territorial governor to have you both relocated to the reservation in Oklahoma. He said he would see you dead before he saw Callahan blood mixed with Apache. The words hung in the air between us. I searched his face for deception and found only the raw wound of long-carried truth. "Your father has been dead for 3 years, Chenoa said. Her voice had lost some of its sharpness. 3 years, Thomas. You could have come back the day they put him in the ground." "I was in Mexico," he laughed, but it held no humor, hiding from debts he left behind, working cattle drives to pay off what his gambling and his cruelty had accumulated. "I spent 2 years believing I would die in some dusty border town, knifed by bandits or worked to death under foreign sun. When I finally cleared the last debt, when I finally was free, I thought..." He trailed off, swallowed hard. "You thought we would have forgotten you," I finished, "or moved on, found husbands, built lives that had no room for your return." "Yes." He looked at me, and in his eyes I saw every mile he had traveled, every night he had spent wondering, every morning he had risen with our names still on his lips. "I thought you would have healed from me." Healed. Chenoa tasted the word like poison. "Do you think hearts are like bones, Thomas? That they simply mend and grow strong again in the broken places?" "No." He took another step. This time, neither of us retreated. "I think some wounds never close. I think some absences never fill. I think some love is stubborn enough to survive even betrayal and abandonment and 7 years of desert between its two halves." Silence fell. The copper bells swayed gently in a breeze that should not have existed. Outside, the train began its labored departure, the engineer having finished whatever business delayed him. We were alone now, the 3 of us in 7 years of unspoke. "N-words. Show us," Chenoa said suddenly. Thomas blinked. "What?" "You speak of love that survives." My sister's voice had changed, become something more complex than anger or pain. "You speak of promises you meant to keep. Show us. Prove that you are not here simply because you have nothing left, nowhere else to go. Prove that we are not merely the final option of a desperate man." "How?" Thomas asked. "Tell me what I must do. I will do anything." Chenoa looked at me. In her gaze I saw the question she had carried for 7 years. What do we do when the thing we wanted more than breath finally returns? Do we embrace it? Do we destroy it? Do we guard our hearts so fiercely that we become the architects of our own loneliness? I made my decision. "The spring roundup is in 3 weeks," I said. "The ranches to the north have been raiding the wild horse herds in the canyon. Those horses are sacred to our people. Their capture and sale violates treaties that your government signed and your people ignore. Help us protect them. Help us drive them to safety in the mountains where the ranchers cannot follow." Thomas stared at me. He understood what I was asking. This was not simply a test of his willingness to work. This was a test of which world he would choose, which loyalty he would honor, the Apache way or the rancher way. his past identity, or the future he claimed to want with us. "If the ranchers catch me helping you," he said slowly, "I will never be welcome in white society again. I will be branded a traitor to my own kind. I will lose any claim to the Callahan name." "Yes," I said, "you will." He was quiet for a long moment. The late afternoon light painted him in shades of gold and shadow. And then Thomas Callahan did something I never expected. He smiled. "I lost the right to that name years ago," he said. "It belonged to a man who valued property over love, blood over character, pride over decency. I want no inheritance from such a man. I want only what I came here to reclaim." "And what is that?" Chenoa asked. For he looked at her first with warmth and respect. "A sister who sees through every lie and guards her family with the ferocity of a warrior." Then his gaze found mine. "And a woman whose face I have seen every night for 7 years, whose voice I have heard in every desert wind, whose absence has been the only wound that never stopped bleeding." For I felt the tears before I could stop them. They traced hot paths down my cheeks. "You heard us," Chenoa said, but her voice had lost its edge completely now. "You left without explanation. We thought you abandoned us because you finally saw us as your people see us, as less than, as unworthy." But Thomas closed the distance between us then. He dropped to his knees on the trading post floor, dust and all, and he took both of our hands in his. "I would rather have died in Mexico," he said. "I would rather have taken my father's blade across my own throat than let you believe such lies for a single day. You are not less than. You have never been unworthy. You are the most remarkable women I have ever known. And the time I spent here learning to love you was the only time I have ever felt worthy of anything." For the copper bell chimed again. The desert wind was finding its evening voice. Chenoa knelt beside him. She took his face in her hands, turned it toward her, studied him with eyes that had learned to read truth and deception in equal measure. Whatever she found there must have satisfied her, because slowly, carefully, she pressed her forehead to his. "If you betray us again," she whispered, "I will hunt you across every territory between here and the Eastern Sea. I will find you, and I will remind you why Apache warriors were once the most feared in all this land." "If I betray you again," Thomas replied, "I will hand you the knife myself." She nodded once. Then she released him and stepped back, giving me room. I did not kneel. I stood there looking down at this man who had shattered me and now knelt in the debris of his own life, asking for a chance to rebuild something beautiful from our shared ruins. 3 weeks, I said. Prove yourself in the canyon. Show me that your words are more than wind. Show me that 7 years have made you worthy of what you are asking. He rose slowly, never breaking eye contact with me. And if I prove myself, if I help save the horses, face the ranchers, choose your world over theirs? I thought of my grandmother, who once told me that love was not a gentle river, but a flash flood, destructive and life-giving in equal measure. I thought of my mother, who loved a man who could not stay and never stopped believing he would return. I thought of Chenoa, who had armored her heart with anger, but never quite managed to throw away the hope beneath. I thought of myself, standing at this window 7 years ago, watching a man ride away and knowing with absolute certainty that I would never be whole again. If you prove yourself, I said, then we will speak of futures. We will speak of what was interrupted. We will speak of what might still be possible if two wounded hearts can learn to beat together again. Thomas reached out slowly, giving me every chance to pull away. I did not. His fingers brushed my cheek, wiped away the tears that had dried there. I will prove myself, he said, every day, every hour, every moment until my last breath. I will earn back what I lost, even if it takes another 7 years, even if it takes a lifetime. Outside, the sun finally touched the horizon. The desert blazed red and gold, painting the world in colors that our people believed were the gods express, seeing emotion too vast for human understanding. Chenoa moved to stand beside us. She took my hand in hers and extended her other hand to Thomas. After a moment's hesitation, he took it. We stood there together, the three of us, connected in a circle of touch and tentative trust. The past could not be erased, the pain could not be undone. But perhaps, like the desert that bloomed after rain, something new could grow from ground that had seemed forever barren. "Welcome back, Thomas Callahan," I said softly. "Welcome to the first day of proving you deserve to stay." He squeezed our hands gently. "Thank you for letting me try." The train whistle sounded once more, distant now, carrying some other traveler to some other destiny. But our destinies were here, in this trading post at the edge of two worlds, in this moment when the door between past and future stood open. We had survived 7 years of winter. Perhaps now, finally, the spring could begin.